Welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy discovering old coins, unusual world currency, and the hidden details that collectors search for, subscribe and stay with us. Today, we are investigating the 1992 Fiji 5 cents. And before we go any further, remember one important fact. This is a Fiji coin, not a United States coin. So American collectors who discover one in an old foreign coin collection should not judge it by the rules used for Lincoln cents, Washington quarters, or American half dollars. Different countries have different coinage systems, and Fiji has a fascinating one. The 1992 Fiji 5 cents belongs to the modern Fiji circulation series that used the third portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. The coin was issued for 5 cents in the Fijian dollar system. Its denomination is tiny, but its design tells a much bigger story. On the front of the coin is the crown portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, facing right around. The portrait is the inscription identifying Elizabeth II and Fiji, along with the initials REDM. Those initials belong to Raphael David McLouf, the artist responsible for the portrait. Now turn the coin over. This is where the coin reveals something distinctly Fijian. The reverse shows a traditional Fijian drum known as the lali. The denomination 5 cents appears alongside the drum. The reverse design is credited to Ken Payne. The edge is reeded, and the coin is round. It measures about 19.41 millimeters across and weighs approximately 2.35 grams, and the metal is nickel-plated steel. That means this is not a precious metal coin. There is no hidden silver fortune waiting to be melted down. Its collector interest comes from its history, scarcity, condition, and design. And now we reach one of the most important numbers in this entire investigation. The recorded mintage for the 1992 Fiji 5 cents is approximately 7.7 million coins. 7.7 million. That is certainly not an extremely tiny mintage, but compared with some heavily produced modern circulation coins, it is not an enormous number either. This is where collectors need to be careful. A relatively limited mintage does not automatically make a coin rare and valued. Millions of examples can still survive, and when collector demand is modest, prices can remain modest as well. That is exactly why you should never believe a headline claiming that every old coin is secretly worth thousands of dollars. The date alone does not create a fortune. The condition matters, the variety matters, the authenticity matters, and collector demand matters. So what should you actually look for on a 1992 Fiji 5 cents? Start with the date. Make sure the coin really says 1992. Then, examine the Queen Elizabeth portrait. Look at the hair details. Look at the relationship between the crown and the surrounding lettering. Then move to the reverse. Study the lali drum. Look closely at the lettering and the surfaces around the design. Collectors can sometimes distinguish different die characteristics in this series. Catalog information identifies two major die types across the broader series. One obverse type has a higher relief portrait, while another has lower relief characteristics. The difference can be seen in details such as the queen's hair and the distance between the crown and surrounding lettering. The reverse also has different die characteristics involving the thickness of the lettering and details around the drum. However, there is an important point here. Do not automatically assume that every small difference you see is a valuable error. Coins can show normal die variation. They can also suffer damage after leaving the mint. A scratch is not necessarily a mint error. A dent is not necessarily a mint error. A strange-looking surface is not automatically rare. If you think your coin has a genuine minting error, professional examination and authentication are much safer than trusting a random internet photograph. Now imagine two 1992 Fiji 5 cent coins sitting next to each other. Both have the same date. Both have the same denomination. Both came from the same basic issue, but one has spent decades circulating through everyday transactions. It has scratches. Its highest details are worn. Its surfaces are dull. The other coin was carefully preserved. Its original surfaces remain much sharper. The design is crisp. The lettering is strong. There are fewer marks. To the average person, they may look almost identical. To a collector, they can be very different. That is the power of condition. And it is why grading exists. A coin grader examines the amount of wear, the quality of the surfaces, the sharpness of the strike, contact marks, scratches, discoloration, and overall eye appeal. For a common circulation coin, a high grade may not automatically make it extremely valuable, but a superb example can still be more desirable than a heavily circulated one. And this brings us to the question everyone once answered: what is a 1992 Fiji 5 cents actually worth? Current catalog information gives indicative values in the neighborhood of less than $1 for many grades. For example, Numista lists indicative figures around 45 cents for fine, about 56 cents for very fine and extremely fine, about 65 cents for almost uncirculated, and roughly 87 cents for uncirculated. Another catalog source gives an approximate value around 50 cents to $1 for higher grade. Examples: these figures are indications rather than guaranteed selling prices. Actual market prices can change depending on the seller, buyer, country, shipping costs, condition, certification, and collector demand. So if you discover one of these coins in a jar, do not expect to retire from it. The ordinary 1992 Fiji 5 cents is not supported by reliable evidence as a $1,000 or $1 million coin. And that honesty is important, because good numismatics is not about exaggerating a coin's value. It is about discovering what makes the coin genuinely interesting. And this coin has plenty of history to offer. Think about where a 1992 Fiji 5 cents could have traveled. It could have been used in Fiji during everyday commerce. It could have passed through a shop, a market, a bank, or someone's pocket. A traveler could have brought it home as a souvenir. Decades later, it could have ended up inside an American collection of foreign coins. Maybe it is sitting in an old maybe it is inside a drawer. Maybe it is mixed with coins inherited from a relative. Or perhaps it is sitting at the bottom of an old coin jar, because nobody recognized what country it came from. That is what makes world coins so fascinating. You're not just collecting metal, you're collecting stories. And the 1992 Fiji 5 cents captures a small moment in the country's modern history. The coin features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, but the reverse celebrates a distinctly Fijian cultural object. The lali drum has deep cultural significance in Fiji and has traditionally been used for communication and ceremonial purposes. So this tiny 5-cent coin combines monarchy, national identity, culture, and everyday commerce in a piece of metal less than 20 millimeters wide. Now here is another important lesson. Do not clean your coin. If you discover a 1992 Fiji 5 cents in an old collection, resist the temptation to polish it. Cleaning can leave scratches and unnatural surfaces that may reduce collector appeal. Instead, preserve it as you found it. Handle it carefully by the edges. If the coin appears unusually sharp, unusual, or potentially error-struck, consider having it examined by someone experienced with world coins. And remember that authentication becomes especially important when someone claims that an ordinary coin is worth an extraordinary amount. The bigger the claim, the stronger the evidence should be. So where does that leave us? The 1992 Fiji 5 cents is not a secret $1 million coin. It is not automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars simply because it is over 30 years old. Its recorded mintage of about 7.7 million makes it an interesting issue, but not an extreme rarity. Its normal collector value is generally modest, but that does not mean you should ignore it. A sharply preserved example can be more desirable than an ordinary circulated piece. A genuine and properly authenticated mint error could be more interesting still. An unusual varieties or exceptional condition can change the conversation. That is the difference between simply owning an old coin and actually understanding it. So the next time you find a small foreign coin in an inherited collection, do not throw it aside. Turn it over, read the date, study the design, check the condition, and ask the right questions. Who made it? Where was it made? How many were produced? What does the design represent? And most importantly, is there anything unusual about this particular example? Because the real treasure in coin collecting is not always a giant price tag. Sometimes it is the moment when an ordinary looking object suddenly becomes a piece of history, and that is exactly what the 1992 Fiji 5 cents gives us. A small coin, a modest denomination, a distinctive Fijian design, connection to Queen Elizabeth II, and a reminder that every coin has a story. If you know how to look. So check those old family collections. Look through the foreign coins in your albums. Search those drawers, boxes, inherited collections, and forgotten coin jars. You may not find a fortune, but you might find something far more interesting. You might find a coin whose history you never knew. If you have a 1992 Fiji 5 cents, tell us about it in the comments. Tell us where you found it, what condition it is in, and whether you noticed anything unusual about the design, and let us know which old coin you want us to investigate next. Subscribe for more rare coin investigations, historical discoveries, and honest coin values, because sometimes the smallest coins can carry the biggest stories. Imagine finding a tiny 1-penny coin in an old drawer, a forgotten coin jar, or a family collection that has been sitting untouched for years. At first, you might think it is practically worthless, but then you notice the date. You turn it over and see the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, and suddenly, one simple question comes to mind. Could this little penny be worth far more than 1 penny today? Look closely, because there is more to this coin than most people realize. The 2002 British 1 penny belongs to the 4th portrait era of Queen Elizabeth II. The portrait was designed by Ian Rank Broadley. On the obverse, Queen Elizabeth faces right while wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. Around her portrait is the inscription Elizabeth II, followed by the traditional abbreviated royal legend. You may see the letters D.G., which stand for De Gratia, meaning by the grace of God. You will also see Reg. F.D., an abbreviation connected with the Queen's title as Queen and Defender of the Faith. And then comes the date. That date is important, because 2002 was a major year in the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. It was the year of her Golden Jubilee, marking 50 years since she became Queen. So, even though this ordinary circulating penny was not itself a special 50-year commemorative coin, it belongs to a fascinating moment in British history. Now turn the coin over. This is where the design becomes instantly recognizable. The reverse shows a crown portcullis with chains. The portcullis is a historic symbol associated with Westminster and British royal imagery. On the design is the denomination, 1 penny. The reverse design was created by Christopher Ironside. And here is something many people do not realize. The portcullis design was used on the British 1 penny from the beginning of decimal coinage in 1971 all the way through 2008. So when you look at a 2002 penny, you are looking at a design that was part of British everyday money for decades. The coin itself is round with a plain edge. It measures about 20.3 millimeters in diameter and weighs about 3.56 grams. But there is another detail that makes this particular generation of British pennies interesting. It is magnetic. Why? Because by 2002, the circulating 1 penny was made from copper-plated steel. The steel core gives the coin its magnetic property, while the copper plating gives it the familiar copper-colored appearance. The Royal Mint explains that the composition of 1 penny and 2 penny coins changed to copper-plated steel, beginning in September 1992 because of rising global metal prices. So if you have a 2002 penny and it sticks to a magnet, that is not automatically an error. It is normal for this issue, and this is an important lesson for anyone searching for valuable coins. Not every unusual feature is a mint error. Sometimes, it is simply part of the standard design or composition. Now comes the number that should immediately change your expectations. How many 2002 1-penny coins were actually made? The recorded circulation mintage is approximately 601,446,000 pieces. More than 600 million. That is a huge number, and that tells us something very important. The ordinary 2002 British penny is not an extreme rarity. In fact, millions of these coins were produced for everyday use. So if you find one in a drawer, do not immediately assume you have discovered a fortune. The surprising part is that not every old coin is valuable simply because it has age. A coin from 2002 is now more than 2 decades old, but age alone does not make it rare. Collectors look at several factors: mintage, survival, condition, varieties, mint errors, historical importance, and collector demand. The 2002 penny scores well as an interesting historical coin, but the normal circulating issue was produced in enormous numbers. So what should you look for? Start with the basics. Look carefully at the date. Make sure it is actually 2002. Then inspect the Queen's portrait. Check the lettering around the edge of the design. Look at the portcullis on the reverse. Examine the crown. Check the chains. Look at the number 1 and the lettering around it. You are looking for anything that appears genuinely different from a normal example. But this is where patience becomes important. A scratch is not necessarily an error. A dent is not necessarily an error. Flattened area caused by circulation is not an error. Damage caused after the coin left the Royal Mint should not be confused with a genuine minting mistake. A legitimate error would have to originate during the manufacturing process. Examples of serious mint errors in general can include major off-center strikes, multiple strikes, wrong planchets, dramatic die breaks, or other confirmed production mistakes. But I want to make something very clear. I am not going to tell you that every 2002 penny has a secret error worth thousands of dollars. There is no reliable evidence for that claim. If someone is advertising a normal 2002 penny for an enormous price, you should ask for documentation. What error is it? Has it been authenticated? Has a recognized grading company examined it? Are there documented sales of comparable pieces? Without strong evidence, a high asking price means very little. Now let us talk about condition. Imagine 2002 British pennies. The first one has spent years moving through pockets, cash registers, banks, and coin jars. The copper plating is worn. The portrait has lost detail. There are scratches and contact marks. The second coin has been carefully preserved since the day it was struck. The surfaces are bright and clean. The portrait is sharp. The lettering is crisp. The portcullis design remains strong. Both coins have the same date. Both have the same denomination. But they can have very different collector appeal. That is why grading matters. A coin's grade describes its physical condition. Circulated examples show wear. Extremely fine examples retain much more detail. Almost uncirculated pieces show only very minor evidence of handling, and uncirculated examples have not experienced normal circulation wear. But even an uncirculated 2002 penny should not automatically be called rare. High grade is not the same thing as rarity. This distinction is critical. Now comes the question everyone wants answered. What is this 2002 1 penny actually worth? Available catalog data gives ordinary examples a relatively modest collector value. Indicative figures are roughly around $2 for good condition, around $15 for very good, about $21 for fine, around $21 for very fine, approximately $31 for extremely fine, about $37 for almost uncirculated, and around $91 for uncirculated in the cited catalog data. However, there is a very important warning. Those figures are catalog indications and are not guaranteed selling prices. The source itself explains that these values are based on user evaluations and online sales information and should only be treated as indications. Actual market prices can be dramatically different depending on the marketplace, country, buyer demand, exact condition, certification, and whether the coin has a special status. So do not look at a catalog number and assume that your circulated penny will sell for that amount. A normal coin in ordinary condition may be worth very little above face value. A beautifully preserved specimen can be worth considerably more, and a genuinely rare error or variety, if authenticated, can enter an entirely different collecting category. This is the difference between an ordinary coin and a genuinely exceptional one. Now, there is another fascinating possibility. What if your 2002 penny is not the normal circulating version? British 1 penny coins were also produced in special, brilliant, uncirculated, and proof versions. The catalog records approximately 60,539 pieces for the brilliant uncirculated issue, and about 60,770 for the proof issue. These were dramatically smaller production numbers than the more than 600 million circulation coins. And that changes the collector conversation. A proof coin is specially manufactured with polished dies and specially prepared surfaces. It is not simply an ordinary penny that happened to look shiny. A brilliant uncirculated coin is also specially preserved and presented for collectors. So if you discover a 2002 penny that looks unusually perfect, do not automatically assume it is just a lucky circulation coin. It could be worth checking whether it came from a collector set. And this is where your old family collections become interesting. Imagine that someone in your family purchased a British coin set in 2002. Maybe it was stored in a cabinet, maybe it was placed inside an album, maybe it was forgotten in an attic box. Decades later, someone finds the collection and separates the coins without realizing that some pieces were specially struck for collectors. That is a realistic scenario, but again, it is a possibility, not a claim that every old collection contains a valuable proof. You have to identify the actual coin. And there is another mistake you should avoid. Do not clean it. If your 2002 penny has been sitting untouched for 20 years, resist the temptation to polish it. Cleaning can leave scratches and unnatural surfaces. Collectors generally prefer coins with original surfaces over coins that have been aggressively polished. If you enjoy discovering old coins, hidden varieties, and the real stories behind valuable pieces of history, make sure you subscribe. Today, we are investigating the 2012 United Kingdom 2 pence coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II, and there is one important correction before we begin. This is not a United States 2-cent coin or an American penny. It is a British 2 pence coin. If you found one in an American collection, it may have traveled here through a vacation, an inherited foreign coin collection, an estate, or an old box of international currency. And that is exactly why checking those forgotten collections can be so interesting. The 2012 2 pence belongs to the fourth portrait era of Queen Elizabeth II. The obverse features the Queen facing right, wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. The portrait was designed by Ian Rank Broadley. On the portrait is the royal inscription Elizabeth II DG. Reg. FD. The abbreviation DG comes from the Latin de gratia, meaning by the grace of God. The date 2012 appears as part of the obverse design. Now turn the coin over. This is where the story changes. The reverse displays the royal shield of the United Kingdom. The design was created by Matthew Dent and was introduced for the 2 pence in 2008. The shield design is divided into sections representing different parts of the United Kingdom. It is a much more modern design than the famous portcullis reverse used on earlier 2 pence coins. The coin itself is round and has a plain edge. It measures approximately 25.9 millimeters across and weighs about 7.12 grams. And here is another detail you can test at home. A normal 2012 circulation 2 pence is copper-plated steel. That means it should be attracted to a magnet. The Royal Mint explains that the composition of 1 pence and 2 pence coins changed from bronze to copper-plated steel beginning in 1992 because of rising metal prices. The steel core makes these later coins magnetic. So, if your 2012 2 pence sticks to a magnet, that is normal. It does not automatically mean you have discovered an error. Now comes the number that matters. How many 2012 2 pence circulation coins were made? The recorded mintage is approximately 67.8 million pieces. That sounds like a huge number. And it is. So the normal 2012 circulation coin is not an extreme rarity. This is where coin collectors have to separate excitement from reality. A coin does not become valuable simply because it is old. And 2012 is not particularly old in numismatic terms. The value comes from rarity, condition, varieties, errors, special finishes, demand, and authentication. So what should you look for? Start with the date. Make sure it really says 2012. Then inspect the Queen's portrait. Look at the lettering. Check the royal shield on the reverse. Examine the crown and the details inside the shield. Look carefully around the rim and the lettering. And remember, collectors know exactly what to look for, but they also know what not to mistake for an error. A scratch is not automatically a mint error. A dent is not a mint error. Damage caused by a coin machine or another coin is not a valuable variety. A genuine mint error must have occurred during production. Major errors can include dramatic off-center strikes, multiple strikes, wrong planchets, die breaks, or other confirmed manufacturing mistakes. But I am not going to tell you that every 2012 2 pence has a secret error worth thousands of dollars. There is no reliable evidence supporting such a claim for the normal circulation issue. Now imagine two 2012 2 pence coins sitting next to each other. The first has been circulating for years. It has scratches. The surfaces are worn. The edges show contact marks. The shield details are softer. The second was removed from circulation almost immediately and stored carefully. Its surfaces are much cleaner. The design is sharp. The original finish is still attractive. Both coins have the same date, but collectors may value them very differently. That is why condition matters. And there is an even more interesting possibility. The Royal Mint produced special, brilliant, uncirculated, and proof versions of the 2012 2 pence. Only about 77,725 brilliant and circulated pieces are recorded, compared with the 67.8 million circulation coins. The recorded proof mintage is even smaller at about 26,552. Now, that is a completely different situation. If you discover a 2012 2 pence that looks unusually sharp and carefully preserved, do not immediately assume it is simply a lucky circulation coin. It may have come from a collector set, and that distinction can matter. Catalog indications currently put ordinary 2012 circulation examples at modest values. For the circulation issue, indicative figures range from only a few cents in lower grades to roughly 52 cents in uncirculated condition. The special brilliant uncirculated issue is listed around $5.30, while the proof issue is listed around $4.40. These numbers are indications, not guaranteed selling prices. Actual prices can change depending on condition, certification, buyer demand, marketplace, and whether the coin is genuinely the special version being claimed. So if you find a normal circulated 2012 2 pence in an old coin jar, do not expect thousands of dollars. The evidence does not support that. But if you discover a pristine collector issue, a documented variety, or a genuine authenticated mint error, the value can be different. This is why serious collectors never judge a coin from the date alone. Now think about where one of these coins could have been. Maybe it was placed in an old family album into a 1-2. Maybe a traveler brought it back from Britain. Maybe it was stored inside an inherited foreign coin collection. Maybe it has been sitting in a drawer or box for more than a decade. Or perhaps someone bought a Royal Mint collector set and completely forgot about it. These are realistic possibilities, but they are possibilities, not guaranteed discoveries. And that is the fun of searching. You do not know what you have until you examine it. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is cleaning the coin. If your 2012 2 pence has been sitting untouched for years, leave it alone. Do not polish it. Do not scrape it. Do not use chemicals to make it look brighter. Cleaning can damage the original surface and reduce collector appeal. handle it by the edges, and keep it protected. If you believe your coin is a proof, a special brilliant uncirculated issue, or a genuine mint error, professional examination can help establish exactly what you have. Now comes the question everyone wants answered. Could a normal 2012 British to Pence make you rich? The honest answer is no. A normal circulated example is generally worth little more than its face value from a collector's standpoint, but that does not make the coin worthless as history. This coin was struck during 2012, the year of the London Olympic Games, and the year Queen Elizabeth II celebrated her Diamond Jubilee. It belongs to a remarkable period in British history, and that historical connection gives the coin a story that goes far beyond its 2p denomination. The most interesting part is that millions of ordinary coins can exist, while a much smaller number of special collector pieces sit quietly in albums and collections. That is where your search should become more careful. Do not ask only whether you have a 2012 2p. Ask which 2012 2p you have. Is it circulation? Is it brilliant uncirculated? Is it proof? Is the condition exceptional? Is there a genuine mint error? Can the unusual feature be authenticated? Those questions are far more important than a dramatic internet headline. So before you throw that old British coin into a jar, take another look. Check the date. Study the Queen's portrait, examine the royal shield, test the magnetic property, look at the surfaces, and if something appears genuinely unusual, get a second opinion before assuming it is valuable. Because the truth about coin collecting is simple, a penny is not automatically worth thousands, a 2p coin is not automatically worth thousands, and a coin from a famous year is not automatically rare. The real value comes from rarity, condition, variety, errors, demand, and authentication. The ordinary 2012 2p is common, but a special collector version or a genuinely rare and authenticated error can tell a very different story, and that is why searching old collections is so exciting. You are not guaranteed to find a fortune. You are searching for the exception. So check those old drawers, search the family coin jars, look through inherited albums, open those attic boxes. And if you have a 2012 Elizabeth II 2p, tell us about it in the comments. Tell us whether yours is circulated, uncirculated, or possibly from a collector set. And if you want another rare coin investigation, tell us which old coin we should examine next. Subscribe for more honest coin values, fascinating history, and the hidden details that most people miss, because sometimes the smallest coin in your collection has a story waiting to be discovered.